Good afternoon, students. So welcome to the 6th week of your 12-week class. Congratulations on making it halfway through your class. Yes, you are halfway done with the 6-week class. And so now this week you have to take your midterm. So make sure that you have your midterm study guide. I put the midterm study guide in your announcements, and also I put the midterm study guide in the very first welcome letter that you got from your email when I first welcomed you all into this class 6 weeks ago. Can you believe it's been 6 weeks? And so this week you're going to, in the forum, you're going to, I'm drawing a blank. And so this week I'm sure you're having a lot of fun doing your peer review as well as doing your revision. And so this week you're going to go over your revision, okay? And so we're gonna go over the topic. Okay, now I remember. I drew a blank for a second. Yeah, so for the week 6 forum, all you have to do is look at that revision sheet that I sent you. So in the revision sheet, I go over many different kinds of ways in which you can revise your essay. For instance, you can do reverse outlining. Reverse outlining simply means that you look at your essay and you go in reverse and you try to picture it as your outline. And you could do this for any article that you read. For instance, if you're reading an article somewhere, you could say, well, what is the thesis statement of this article? And then you try to locate the thesis statement. And so, when you look over your paper, try to find your thesis statement and make sure that your thesis statement, that's the life lesson sentence, the main idea of your essay, make sure it's located as the last sentence of the introduction and the first sentence of the conclusion. So that's called reverse outlining because you're turning your paper into an outline again. A very popular one is printing out your paper and looking at it. So that's called the print out and review revision method. Then there's the zoom way out method. That's when you zoom out your Microsoft document, and then you can see 2 pages side by side. And so you make sure that all of the paragraphs are all 5 to 7 sentences. So that's when you zoom out, you can take a look to see if all your paragraphs are evenly. In other words, you want to make sure each paragraph has 5 to 7 sentences. And then another kind of revision is scissors, in which people take their actual paper and cut each paragraph out. And then you put the paragraphs together, and then you're able to see to make sure each paragraph is 5 to 7 sentences, and you also make sure that each paragraph refers back to the thesis statement. A lot of people are still confusing the difference between writing a story, a narrative story, and a narrative essay. When we write a narrative story, we just go from beginning, middle, and end. In other words, you write the beginning, the triggering event, then you write the rising action in which everything's getting more and more exciting until you get to the climax, and then you have the descending action where you're getting to the resolution. So when we write a story, we simply write about the sequence of events from the beginning, the middle, and the end. However, when we write an essay, we don't simply just write the story. The story has to have a moral. The story has to have a point. The story has to have a thesis. The story has to have a main idea. Because whenever we write a narrative, any kind of essay, we make a claim in our thesis statement, and then we back up that claim with our body paragraphs. So in a narrative essay, you make a claim. Your claim would be the moral of your story. You would say, from this experience, I learned to give people a second chance. And so then you back up that claim of how did you learn, or where did you learn how to give people a second chance. Well, you back it up with your story. So you make a claim and you back it up with your story. That becomes the narrative essay. But when you write any kind of essay, you make a claim and you back it up with credible sources. And later on in this class, we're going to learn about APA and credible sources in week 10 when we do the week 10 worksheet. So I will go over APA very briefly because some of you are already encountering the need to know APA because of your other classes. So APA stands for American Psychological Association. And so we use APA to avoid plagiarism. Every time you use numbers, every time you have medical, scientific, historical facts, you have to cite the source to avoid plagiarism and to give credit to the researcher. So an example of an in-text citation would be 70% of Americans are obese, or the average minimum wage is $15, or there are 350 million people in this country. Any kind of number, you have to cite the source of where you got the information from. If you are citing something verbatim, that's known as a direct quote, and then that means you have to have quotation marks, and then you have the author name, Smith, date, and page number. You put it between parentheses at the end of the sentence inside your body paragraphs. Then you have the second kind of quote is a paraphrase quote, where you summarize the quote. So even if you put the quote in your own words, in other words, most Americans are overweight, for instance, you still have to cite the source of where you got that fact from. And therefore you put Smith and date, the author name and the date. You don't need any quotation marks, and you don't need page numbers. And so in-text citations such as paraphrase quote and direct quote go inside the body of your paragraph. And then at the end of your paper, you would have your reference citations. And so your reference citations and your in-text citations need to match. So your reference citation tells the reader exactly where they can find that information. So how do I write a reference citation? Well, first of all, you have the author's last name, Smith, then the author's first name, Patrick, then you put in the date of publication, 2024, then you put in the name of the article, Obesity in America, and you italicize it. Then you put in your website name, and cdc.org, or Centers for Disease Control, or something like that. Then you put in when you retrieved the website. So retrieved November 5th, 2024 from, and then you put in http www.cdc.org. Okay, so that is a reference citation that you put at the end of your paper in alphabetical order. Alphabetical order means Abrams. Let's say the last name of the author is Abrams, then that person goes at the top of the list, and then someone whose name is Zelinsky or Xavier, with a Z, his name will go at the end of the list. And you're going to use a special left hanging indent for your reference pages. And I think I said this last week, that the most common mistakes I found while grading your papers is still you need to double space your paper, that's Control 2, and you need to indent 5 spaces, the first line of every paragraph, for your writing assignments. And as I said before, when you do your forums and you post your rough draft, you don't have to attach it. You can just cut and paste into your forums. So in the forums, you're going to notice it's single spaced. So, but when you upload it to your writing assignment, you got to make sure it's double spaced. That's because Canva does not know how to do double spacing in their forums. And we cut and paste into the forums so that it's easier for everybody to peer review. But for week 6, we're just going to be discussing different ways to do revision. Oh, and I left out, I think I went over all the different ways in which you can check your essay structure. That was the reverse outline, that was the zoom way out, that was the scissors technique, and print and read out loud and have someone else look over your paper. Now I'm going to go over the different kinds of editing. You can either glossing means that you read your essay backwards, okay? I've never tried the glossing method, but a lot of students swear that if they read their essay backwards, they can find mistakes. Okay, well, I've never tried that. And then I like to do specific focus. Specific focus means that you look over each grammar error one at a time. And so, for instance, the first time I go over my paper, I look only for comma usage errors. The second time I go over my paper, I look for punctuation errors. The third time I look over my paper, I look for subject-verb agreement errors, that sort of thing. So one at a time. And you'll find that it goes very fast. It goes much faster when you do specific focus. And that there are two stages to revision. The first stage is checking for your essay structure. That's known as revision. And then the second stage is known as editing and proofreading. The two are together. Editing and proofreading is the same thing, more or less. That means that you check for grammar. So you always make sure that your essay structure is solid and before you check for grammar. So that is how you revise your paper. One of the fun ways to revise your paper that students really like is you take a break. Don't go through don't sit through all three stages of the writing process all at the same time. You need to give your brain a rest. And so therefore, and then when you come back, you'll be able to see your mistakes much better. Otherwise, you're too close to your paper. So always take a break. After you write the rough draft, take a break, come back, and then revise your paper. And so that's why I tell students that when they write their paper, they do it in 3 sittings. First sitting, pre-writing, write the outline. Second sitting, you write out your rough draft. Then the third sitting means that then you revise your paper. And each time you take a break. And so that way you split it up and you don't get burnt out writing. And so when you use the writing process, it helps organize the order in which you are going to be doing your paper. Okay, and so that's it for week 6, for the midterm and the revision week 6. Then in week 7, so in week 6, you're going to turn in the final draft of your paper, and we're going to be done with essay 1. And in week 7, you're going to start your second essay, which is going to be a comparison-contrast essay. So when you do a comparison-contrast essay, you're going to be comparing 2 things. And so there are 2 kinds of thesis statements associated with a comparison-contrast essay. You've got the explanatory thesis statement, and we use that when you have a complicated or controversial topic. So if I say that COVID-19 is much more virulent than the flu, then not many people know the difference. Or you could say COVID-19 is not the same as RSV. And so when you compare 2 things that people are not too familiar with, you use an explanatory thesis statement where you explain the difference between the 2, or you explain the similarity between the 2. If you have a simple subject like childhood versus adulthood, then you use an evaluatory or an evaluation thesis statement where you evaluate which one is better than the other. So if I would say then the thesis statement would be childhood is better than adulthood because reason 1, reason 2, reason 3, and then those 3 reasons will become your body paragraphs. And so that pretty much, and so in week 7, you're going to write an outline for your essay 2. And so basically week 7 and week 8 are all pretty much pre-writing. And so you're going to write you're going to choose a topic in week 7 and then write out your outline. And the same thing with week 8. You're also going to write an outline for your paper. Then you skip 9 and 10, and then we're going to come back to the finishing essay 2. So remember, week 7, week 8, week 11, and 12. Those are the weeks we're going to work on the comparison-contrast essay. So say it to yourself real fast. 7, 8, 11, 12. 7, 8, 11, 12. This way you're going to remember that, because 9 and 10, we're going to be working on the persuasive essay. And you ask me, well, why do you stick some other essay in the middle of essay 2? I have no idea, since I didn't design this class that way. So that's basically how this class is designed and done, and you just have to go live with it, you know? Because in week 9, you're going to be doing the persuasive essay. Week 10 will also be the persuasive essay and APA. So that pretty much wraps up this entire class, the second half of this class. We're done with half the class, and then in the second half of the class, you're going to be doing essay 2 and essay 3. And you're going to be doing essay 3 in the middle of essay 2. So go figure. So if you have any questions, you can always email me. And next week, I will go over in much more detail different ways in which you can write your comparison contrast essay. And so if you want me to type it out in the whiteboard, you can always email me and say, well, you know, you talk too fast. Can you slow down and write it out in the whiteboard? And I'll do just that if you ask me. Anyway, so the fun thing about these videos is you could just always rewind it to keep watching, you know, me saying it over and over again. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me at any time. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the Professor H Writing channel. So I hope everybody has a really great week and have a great rest of your week. So have a good time.